morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Random Crafty Acts, or if you haven't been here before, welcome to Random Crafty Acts. My name is Barb. My primary focus at the moment is working with card sketches for the purpose of helping beginning card makers. So there's a lot of detail typically in the way I show you how I create something. Right now, I had gone over onto Pinterest and found that there really are a lot of card sketches over there. I don't know how much glare you're getting. I can't really tell. Anyway, one of the kinds of card sketches I found is referred to as Mojo Monday. Right now, Mojo Monday, or at the point I found it, was on poeticartistryblogspot.com, and you can still find that location, and you'll see a link for it in the description below. But you'll also notice when you get there that the last entry on there appears to be 2017. And there are a couple of different places on there that you can click to find some of this stuff, but the real place, and this is really small, and I couldn't figure out how to make it any bigger. But if you go onto Pinterest and you go to J. Tillman Designs, okay, J. Tillman Designs, and I'll put that in the description below, you're going to find her site. And on her site, there are two spots you can go to. One, this first block appears to have sketches, the beginning sketches up to 500. And then 501 and beyond are here, okay? And that appears to be the best way to get to those, all right, which is what I was using. And you will see here I'm working with sketch 526. There's a lot of information on here, and I will kind of leave this in case you are someone who wants to take a screenshot. Okay, let me double check to make sure I've got you. Yeah, well in frame, yes. Okay, and I have marked on here some of the things that I do, because this is one of the more complicated of the card sketches that I have attempted, and that's not the one we're looking at. I'm sorry. That's the one I did in the previous video. This is the one we're doing now, which is 558, okay? So you can keep the other screenshot. It'll help you. There's a video out there for that one, but this is the one I'm doing right now. Okay, Mojo Sketch 558. Okay, and I had a good time doing this one. This is one of the more complex ones I've done. All right, and I'm going to walk you through the setup, and then I'm going to make a card. But this is how it came out. Okay, we'll just slide that in there so you can see kind of the different things that I did. So I started with a piece of 6x6 paper. I believe it was this. And then I had a background piece that kind of matched up with this. Okay. And then I think that piece was kind of one of those ombres, I think they call it, where there's a slight coloration difference as you go down it, like it's a sunset or sunrise or something. So this came out of the top part of that. This came out of the bottom piece of this. This, I'm not sure. I think there's a possibility it came out of the piece that would have been right here. I used black for my mats, okay? And over here, cut the circle and strip from the bottom half of the 4 by 5 1/4 or 2-inch leftover 2 3/4 strip. So let's start working with this and we'll see how it comes out. All right, but this is a different kind of cut than what we've done before. All right, so I am going to set this. This will be close by because it's a lot of measurements. All right, let me get my guillotine out. And the first thing we're going to do is cut the 4 by 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, and this is, well, what we would call non-directional. It doesn't really matter which way we put it up. And what do we have on the other side? Oh, I'm not real fond of that. Okay, 4, and I'm going to come down just a slight bit from the 4 because I want that to fit inside the mat. All right, so we have this is a 2-inch strip, and we're going to lay this over here because I think we may need that. All right, and then this is 5 1/4. And I don't tend to work quite slow enough that I feel like you could craft along, but please keep in mind that you can always just stop the video, okay? You can pause it and get caught up. All right, I'm gonna set that out of the way because the first thing we're gonna do is this cut. And in order to do this cut, I need my pencil, which is over there. All right, this right here says 2 1/4. So you take your ruler and you lay it here on the side, and you go to, there's 2 1/2, 2 1/4, and you put a tiny little pencil mark there. Okay, this side says 3 1/2. Okay, so you take your ruler, this is why I love this ruler, and you lay it here. This is called a center ruler. Yeah, I got it on Amazon. Okay, 3 1/2. So that's the 1/4, there's the 1/2. I just make a really tiny little mark because I can erase that. Okay. You lay the mark here and line the mark there. And I know you can't see it because of the way the blade is, but I line these up like this. If there is a different way to do this, I don't know what it is. All right, I think I saw somebody use the grids to do that with, but that would never work for me. Okay, and then you cut it. Okay, so this is the top, this is the bottom, and we're going to use that. And then I have a eraser in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. And I go ahead and erase my little pencil marks, which is why I use a pencil. Okay, now I'm going to use this for that bottom piece. All right, so I'm going to cut, and there's a reason I do it this way. I'm going to cut this at 5 1/2 because then I can use this other piece for a card base. All right, now I need a 5 1/4. And I need that by 4. And I was measuring it just a scooch. Okay, now notice I'm laying this on here because I want these two to line up exactly. Should work. Okay, we're going to set that aside. All right, so this glues on top of here. It's not a border, it's the bottom half, like it is here. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down now because for me, it works better to do some of the gluing as I'm going along, unless I'm in a situation where I may have to make decisions. Okay. All right. So then the next thing we need is this piece that comes in the middle. All right. And that piece is 2 by 3.5. Two. Always make sure my 2 is actually 2. By 3.5. Okay. Okay, I do. All right, now I want the mat at 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. 3 3/4. 2 1/4. 3 3/4. Okay, and that fits right inside of here. Okay, so that is going to go here. All right, and then we have this strip. Okay, now notice that on this I used the plain, but I don't really have a good plain to put there. If I was going to do that, I would have had to put everything against black, which maybe that was my intention, but that's okay. So we're going to leave this like this because it's too late to take it off, but that's something I maybe should have thought about. Okay, we're still in good shape. All right, so this strip is 1/2 inch. Which this strip is 3/4 inch. So we're going to go with 3/4 inch. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 3/4 inch would mean I need it to be 1 inch. Okay, and lengthwise I want it to be 4 1/4. And it's 4. Let's see if we can make 4 work. This is 4 1/4. Yeah, that works. This is slightly different, mostly because of the paper that I had to work with when I made the orange one. As I said, this one with the other cut. Would look nice with black. Okay. I don't edit my videos. So since this kind of turned out a little differently from what I thought it would, that's what you get. Notice that even though like this is not what I thought it would look like, it still looks okay. All right, so there is something I could do here that, since we haven't put the circle on yet, and that is we can slide some black in underneath here and some black in underneath. I can get that under there. Is that the thinnest one I've got? No, I've got one that's thinner. I think we're going to do this because this was the other thing that I did on a card that was similar to this. And the hardest thing about this is I'm just going to cut it even with the black there. Okay, and then I'm going to use my, if I can find them, my tweezers. Okay, we could have put this on before we put that on top. And that would have been easier. Also notice that we didn't need a very big piece to do that with. Oh, I kind of like that. And then okay, all right, now let's deal with our circles. We can cut, let's see, I've got a little birthday here. And if I remember that, that's 1.5. So I cut this out of the 1 3/4 if it will work. So let's see if it works. Yes, just barely. And this is a punch, and I don't even know who it's by, Eco or something. And then I have some 2-inch black circles somewhere. Don't make me pause the video to look for these. I had a whole bunch of them just a second ago. Okay. I'll find them as soon as I turn this off. Let's see if this is the right size. Yes. All right. So this goes in the center of here. All right, And then this goes here. All right, and then we will use this around and figure out where we want it. Okay, it can go pretty much right here. If you could see my face, you'd see me still looking around trying to figure out where the 2-inch black circles that I had a whole bunch of just like a second ago, where I have put those. All right, and I slide that in place since I use liquid glue. And there we go. Let me set that out of the way so you can get a screenshot here. Okay. I'll check to make sure we're fully in frame so that... All right, so basically we used one piece of 6x6. We do have this piece left over. And technically, if I had not used the top, or if I have... Didn't I leave this? Yeah, so technically, I could cut another piece like this, and I could make another card, this time laying the strip down before I get started. Okay. And then what we don't have at that point is the pieces to lay in here. Okay? And we would need to cut a second piece of paper in order to do that. Or we could cut circles and just put the circle up here. All right, or you can flip it and still make the flowery thing at the top, this down at the bottom, and then use a different sentiment. I'm sorry. Here we go. Yeah, or do a different sentiment setup here. Okay. This, I mean, this will go into my scrap box, and I will do something with it. Because it's a pretty good size, big piece of paper, right? I will probably drag out my box down there and see if I can find something that would go with that. All right, so double check to make sure you've got this where you can get a screenshot if that's what you want, okay? Because I will take a picture of this to put in my... All right, so we used the layer of 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and we cut a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 on an angle to slice the piece in half. We put a 4 by 5 1/4 at the back. If we had taken this piece and this piece and stacked them, we could have gotten 2 cards out of this. Okay, and that is probably a note that I will make in my record someplace, is to figure out a way to get 2 cards out of this one piece with the other piece of background. Okay, all right. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate your doing so. I really focus on trying to do videos for beginning card makers. This is how I learned how to do everything that I know how to do. And so if you subscribed, it doesn't cost you anything. You're not going to get anything in the mail. You're not going to be bothered in any way, but it will help get the videos out there to other beginning card makers, because that's how the YouTube algorithm works. Okay. Do check out Mojo Monday. Do check out J. Tillman Designs. Look in the description below for any other detail. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and click the like button. That always helps too. But leave it in the comments, and I do go back through and try to answer those as much as I can. All right. Thank you very much.